Hey, fourth graders. Welcome to your history/geography culture lesson. Now, today it might kind of seem like a science lesson, but that's okay because they all kind of go together. We've been talking about atoms, and atoms bond together to create molecules. And so you've been looking at molecules, and molecules are what make up matter. Well, today we're looking at cells. And cells are what make up every single living thing. They are the building block of living things, all the way from humans, whales, insects, and plants. Everything in between are made up of cells. And different parts of different cells are for different things. Like we have skin cells, and skin cells look different than blood cells. And those look different than plant cells. Plant cells are very unique. Plant and animal cells look very different, and we'll kind of talk about those at the end of the lesson here. So today we're going to focus though on animal cells and the parts that make up animal cells. Just like our bodies have organs, like the liver and the spleen, the lungs, the heart, our skin, and each organ has a job to do so that our body can function, cells have the same thing, except cells have something called organelles. And those organelles all have a job to do so that our cell can function. So I have a model of a cell here, and we're going to add some parts to it so that we have all of the organelles so that our cell can function properly. But first, let's look at a term that you've probably recognized, and that's called the nucleus. This is the middle part. This whole thing is the nucleus. The nucleus is the controlling center of a cell. It's kind of like the human's brain. It also contains the DNA for the cell. And because I'm going to be running out of room, I'm just going to put this off to the side. There's more parts to our nucleus. Inside this part here is called the chromatin. The chromatin is the part of the nucleus that contains most of the DNA. And DNA is what makes each animal different. So it's like what makes humans. Some humans have blue eyes or green eyes, or some humans have brown hair or blonde hair. So the DNA is what makes people different, and other animals as well. So this part of their nucleus contains the DNA. And the very, very center is called the nucleolus. And it produces RNA in the form of ribosomes. Speaking of ribosomes, let's talk about what those are. So the nucleolus creates these ribosomes. And these ribosomes are here, these little dots. Let's label those. I'll just put this here, ribosome. And ribosomes are attached to the rough ER, which I'll show you what that is. And ribosomes synthesize or create proteins for the lysosomes. Wow, it's a lot of big words there. Let's break this apart here. So ribosomes synthesize or create proteins. Proteins is what gives our cell energy to do work. Okay, let's break this apart a little bit more. These ribosomes are also attached to the rough ER, or the rough endoplasmic reticulum. That's this really big organelle. See how there's also ribosomes on our rough ER? The rough ER is covered in ribosomes, and the rough ER is in charge of transporting these ribosomes to the rest of the cell. So you can kind of think of the rough ER as like a highway system, transporting those ribosomes, those proteins to the different parts so that every organelle can have energy to do its work. Along with that highway system is the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And this also transports materials as well as proteins, so ribosomes, and lipids, which are fats. Back in our ribosome, it says they synthesize proteins for the lysosomes. The lysosomes are another, well, they're all important, but the lysosomes are these guys here. The lysosomes, their main function is to help with digestion. So just like our bodies, our stomach is a big part of an organ to help with digestion, lysosomes also help with digestion. So our cells are bringing in materials, proteins, fats, oxygens, and lysosomes are there to digest it all, to try to figure out which part goes where. So they're there to digest. Vacuoles are also there to aid, to help with digestion. The vacuoles are kind of like our stomach in that they store the food, and like our bowels, that also stores the waste material. So the cell, just like the human body, also needs to store food and waste. And that's what the vacuoles do. All right, let's keep looking. This one's a fun one. It looks so squishy. This is called a Golgi apparatus. What a name. The Golgi apparatus, it prepares the proteins and fats that the smooth ER and the rough ER are transporting. And it prepares the proteins and fats for transport to the outside of the cell. So the proteins and fats are moving along on the endoplasmic reticulums, and eventually they make their way to the Golgi apparatus, where the Golgi apparatus will prepare those proteins and those fats to leave the cell. Because the cell doesn't need all of that. The mitochondria, we've got a few of these. I'm going to move this vacuole over. The mitochondria is you can think of it as the powerhouse. It's the energy source of the cell. The mitochondria converts oxygen and nutrients into energy for the cell to use. So the cell needs oxygen, and that oxygen goes to the mitochondria and converts it to energy for the cell to use. Centrioles are next. That's these, it looks like elongated stars. The centrioles divide into two parts during cell division and assist in the cell division process. They are only found in animal cells. So animal cells are able to divide to create more cells, and the centrioles help with that. We've got two more parts to this. The first part is the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance that holds all of the organelles. So it'd be this blue part in between all of these organelles that holds it all together. And the last organelle is the cell membrane. And that's the membrane that goes around the cell. The cell membrane holds all of the parts of a cell. Every cell is enclosed by a cell membrane. It controls the passage of materials in and out of the cell. So the cell membrane allows oxygen to go in and out. It allows the waste to go in and out. It's a flexible cell membrane, so it can move to where the cell needs to be. Well, it can kind of fluctuate, I should say. It's flexible. And so that allows for things to move in and out and for cells to move if they need to. And that's a really big difference between plant cells and animal cells. Plant cells have as well a cell wall. It's not like a membrane. A cell wall is rigid. It's solid. It can't be moved very easily. A cell membrane can be flexible. A cell wall is rigid. and it goes around the cell, and only plant cells have a cell wall. And that is because plants can't move. They need something sturdy and stable so that they can survive where they are. So plant cells or cell walls make it so the plant is more sturdy. Plant cells also have, rather than cytoplasm, they have something called chlorophyll. And chlorophyll allows the plant to do photosynthesis, which is how the plant gets their energy from the sun. Animal cells do not have chlorophyll because animal cells get their energy from eating food. So you have 2 parts to this assignment after you're done watching this video. Part 1 is you are going to read and answer the questions to the reading animal cells. The reading is attached on Canvas. There's also an audio recording of the reading if you would like to listen to that and then answer the questions. Be sure to highlight on the reading where you are getting your answers. It's important to go back to the reading and find exactly where you have that answer so you know for sure that it's correct. There are, I believe, 5 questions, and then the last 2 are writing, so you're going to write out the answers. The second thing you're going to do is then you get to be a little creative. You can create a model, like this would be a model, or you can draw, make sure it's neat and colorful, a picture of an animal cell. So this would be an example of an animal cell. Make sure you label all of the parts. So you would have all of these parts labeled, and then you need to have at least 5 of the jobs of these parts. So you can choose 5 of the organelles to write out what their job is. And the jobs are along the edge here. And there's a picture posted on Canvas as well for you to look at. We've seen some pretty creative cell models. Some kids I've seen have made a cake and decorated the different parts of the cell and labeled them. Some kids have created clay models. Others have taken leftover Halloween candy and labeled each Halloween candy was a different organelle in the cell, and they labeled them. Some just kind of dug into their art cabinet and found different pom-poms and colors and sequins and all sorts of little things. Some people have just looked around their house and they've found just random artifacts that they could use to represent the different parts. You could also go outside in nature and you could have like rocks be the ribosomes and leaves be the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So you can get pretty creative here in creating your model of your animal cell. And that's all I have for you. Looking forward to seeing your work. Thank you.